The 2021 PGA Championship at Kiawah Island. Phil Mickelson, 50 years old, becomes the oldest major winner in golf history. The crowd chants his name. The story is perfect, the fairy tale complete. But that feels like a lifetime ago. Fast forward to 2026. Phil Mickelson hasn't played a single major this year. Not the Masters, not the PGA, not the US Open, not the Open Championship. For the first time in 36 years, he is absent from all four. He's played one event all season. One. And he finished 48th out of 57 players. The silence around him is deafening. But there's something worse than the silence. There are the rumors. Whispers that started in early 2026 and grew louder with each passing week. Whispers about why he's really been banned from not one, not two, but 3 golf clubs. His home course, the place where he practiced, where he belonged, gone. Golf is a sport built on respect. It is a game of etiquette, of honor, of knowing the unwritten rules. And when a player of Phil's stature gets quietly removed from 3 private clubs, you know something has gone terribly wrong. The clubs did not want the attention. They did not want the scandal. They just wanted him gone. Then, in late June, the dam finally broke. A journalist with 19 sources published a report that changed everything. 19 people willing to speak on the record. Allegations spanning years. A specific incident from 2015 that involves a photo, a proposition, and a player's wife sitting at the same table. Phil's lawyers deny it all. They call it a hit job. They claim video evidence exists, but the clubs say there are no cameras, and the journalists say they stand by their reporting. The man who once owned the golf world can't even get on the course anymore. But the real question is, why did they finally decide to shut him out? I have my own thoughts on whether he deserves this ending, but first, where do you stand? Drop it in the comments. To understand how far he has fallen, you have to remember how high he once stood. Rewind to Kiawah Island, 2021. The wind howled off the Atlantic. The field was packed with the best players on earth. And Phil Mickelson, at 50 years old, did the impossible. He won. He became the oldest major champion in golf history. The crowd did not just cheer. They roared. They chased him down the fairways like he was a rock star. That victory was not just about the trophy. It was about a lifetime of work. It was about a man who had been written off so many times, and he got the last laugh. Phil was beloved. He was the ultimate fan favorite. He signed every autograph. He cracked jokes with the gallery. He made the game feel alive. That moment felt like the start of a beautiful goodbye, a graceful walk into the final chapter. But it was not. That victory was the peak of a cliff, and just beyond that peak, the ground was about to disappear. When Phil stood on that 18th green at Kiawah, holding the Wanamaker Trophy, he had no idea that this was not the beginning of a gentle sunset. It was the last moment of pure, untainted glory he would ever know. The photos from that day show a man at peace, a man who had proved every doubter wrong, a man who had nothing left to prove. But the photos lied. He walked off that green with everything a golfer could ever want. He had no idea that 4 years later, he would be fighting to keep the only thing that was left. The warning signs were there long before the headlines exploded. By early 2026, Phil had all but vanished from competitive golf. He played exactly one event that year, LIV South Africa. 54 holes. He finished 48th out of 57 players. That is not a bad week. That is a player who has completely lost his way. Then came the majors, all 4 of them. The Masters in April, the PGA Championship in May, the US Open in June, the Open Championship in July. He missed every single one. For 36 years, Phil Mickelson had never missed all 4 majors in a single season, not once, until 2026. The official excuse was family health issues, but people started asking questions. Why was he never seen at the course? Why was he practicing alone? Why was he avoiding the media? Then the first crack appeared. The Farms Golf Club, his home base for decades, the place where he practiced, where he belonged, where he was supposed to be welcome forever. He was gone. Asked to leave mid-round, according to reports. His lawyer quickly said he resigned, but the club's statement suggested otherwise. The Farms was not just any club. It was where Phil felt safe. It was where he could be himself, away from the cameras, away from the pressure. And they told him to leave, in the middle of a round. Imagine that. A six-time major champion, one of the greatest to ever play, being asked to pack up his clubs and walk off in the middle of a casual round. And it was not just the Farms, the Madison Club, the Bridges, 3 clubs, 3 bands, 3 places that no longer wanted his name on their membership list. A man with 6 major championships does not get quietly shown the door from his home course unless something serious happened. The only question is, how bad was it? Losing your home course is humiliating for any player, but losing it in the same year a journalist publishes a report with 19 sources? That is a different kind of collapse. The dam broke on June 26, 2026. That was the day Alan Shipnuck published his investigation on Scratch. And it was not a small story. It was massive. 19 sources. 19 people willing to go on the record. Not one anonymous whisper. Not 2 disgruntled ex-employees. 19. The headline was devastating. Phil Mickelson, the beloved lefty, the fan favorite, the man who made golf feel fun, was now accused of inappropriate behavior spanning years. Shipnuck went straight for the most shocking incident. The 2015 Barclays. Phil was at a dinner table. Pat Perez was there. His wife Ashley was there too. According to Ashley, Phil showed her a nude photo of himself. Then he reportedly propositioned her while her husband was still sitting at the same table. She said he told her he would leave the bedroom door open and wait for Pat to fall asleep. The details are uncomfortable. They are the kind of details that make you shift in your seat. A man at the peak of his powers, surrounded by wealth and adoration, making a move on another player's wife while sitting right next to the guy. It is the kind of arrogance that only comes from someone who believes he is untouchable. If one person said this, you might doubt it. If 2 people said it, you might question their motives. But 19 people, 19 sources telling the same story across different years, different places, different clubs. You start to wonder. Phil's lawyers did not stay quiet. They fired back hard. They called the report a drive-by shooting from anonymous sources. They claimed there was video evidence that would clear his name. They said he resigned from the clubs. They said he never did any of it, but the clubs responded too. They said there were no cameras where the alleged incidents happened. No video to back up his defense. The timing of the report was brutal. It came just weeks after the club bans became public. It came as LIV was beginning to crumble. It came at the exact moment when Phil needed people to believe in him the most. He denies everything. His lawyers are fighting hard. But when the people who run the clubs and the journalists who cover the game all tell the same story, you have to ask yourself one question. Who is Phil Mickelson now? But the scandal is only half the story. The other half is money. To understand why Phil is so vulnerable right now, you have to rewind to 2022. That was the year he shocked the golf world. He left the PGA Tour for LIV Golf, the Saudi-backed breakaway league. The check was $200 million. $200 million for a man who was already a billionaire. He did not leave quietly. He burned every bridge on his way out. He called the PGA Tour obnoxious greed. He said the players were being held hostage. He made himself the face of the rebellion. For a while it worked. He was the martyr, the visionary, the man who stood up to the establishment. But fast forward to April 2026, the Saudi Public Investment Fund sat down with the LIV team captains. Phil was one of them. They delivered the news. Funding would stop at the end of the 2026 season. No more billions. No more blank checks. The party was over. And suddenly, Phil had nowhere to go. The PGA Tour will not take him back. The bridge is ash. The majors will not invite him. He has no exemption. He has no ranking. He has no friends in the rooms that matter. He took the money and ran. Now the money is drying up, and there is nowhere left to run to. Think about the irony. Phil left the PGA Tour because he wanted more money, more freedom, more control. He called them greedy. He called them corrupt. He painted himself as the hero fighting for the little guy. But the little guy was never the point. The point was always the check. And now that check is gone. And the people he burned are not rushing to save him. He gambled his entire legacy on a league that was built with blood money. And just when he needed that safety net the most, someone cut the rope. The financial collapse was devastating. But losing the money is not the same as losing the people. Throughout 2025 and 2026, Phil's camp kept repeating the same phrase: family health issues. That was the reason he gave for missing majors. That was the shield he held up every time a reporter asked why he was absent. But after June 2026, that shield started to look different. Was he really at home caring for a sick family member, or was he hiding from the storm that was about to break? The answer is complicated. His wife, Amy, has been his anchor for decades. She stood by him through every high and every low. She was the one who kept him grounded when the fame got too loud. She was his Vivian, the person who made all the sacrifice worth it. But even Amy cannot protect him from what is happening now. Look at the silence around him. Tiger Woods has not said a word. Rory McIlroy has not said a word. The old guard, the players who once celebrated him, the commentators who once praised him, they are all quiet. In golf, you are judged by who stands with you in the dark. In 2026, Phil Mickelson is standing alone. It is one thing to lose tournaments. It is another thing to lose friends. But when the people who know you best refuse to speak your name in public, you know you have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. He spent decades building a network of friends, allies, and admirers. Now, when he needs someone to say his name out loud, the phones are ringing dead. The silence around him is the loudest part of this whole story. Think about what you have heard so far. 3 clubs kicked him out. 19 sources spoke against him. A $200 million league is collapsing underneath him, and the people who once called him a friend have nothing to say. At 56 years old, Phil Mickelson is not just old, he is radioactive. No tour wants him. No major wants him. No sponsor wants to be associated with him. The media is circling like sharks. Every interview, every statement, every denial is picked apart and examined. But here is the part that makes this so hard to watch. The titles are still there. 6 majors, the PGA Championship at 50, the 3 Masters, the Open Championship, the PGA. The trophies still shine. But the shine is different now. It is not the asterisk of a scandal. It is the stain of reputation. The family health issues might be real. His wife Amy has been battling her own health challenges for years. That is not a lie, but it has become something else too. A shield, a wall he hides behind while the world burns around him. This was supposed to be the graceful final chapter, the farewell tour, the crowds cheering one last time, the legends walking alongside him. Instead, it is a slow-motion disaster. And here is the hardest truth of all. He did this to himself. He chose the money over loyalty. He chose the Saudi check over the tour that made him. He pushed boundaries that should never have been pushed. He expected the institutions to protect him because of who he was. But the institutions did not protect him. The PGA Tour does not want him back. LIV is collapsing. The clubs close their doors. The media is writing his obituary. Every choice Phil made led to this moment. Every gamble, every risk, every time he pushed a little too far. He spent his entire career betting on himself, and it always paid off, until it didn't. He wanted to write his own ending. He wanted to go out on his terms. But the ending he is getting now was not written by him at all. And that is the real tragedy of this whole story. Think about Gary Player for a moment. Gary gave everything to the game. His family betrayed him. Augusta National rejected him. He was a victim of others. Phil is different. Phil is not a victim. Phil did this to himself. He chose the Saudi money over loyalty. He chose to push boundaries that should never have been pushed. He expected his reputation to protect him. He expected the institutions to look the other way. They did not. The tragedy is not that he is 56 years old. The tragedy is that he had everything. The love of the fans, the respect of his peers, the legacy that would have lasted forever, and he lost it all by trying to get more. He is still out there, still playing the occasional round, still smiling for the cameras, but the smile is hollow. The man behind the smile is gone. That is my read on this whole situation. But I want to know what you think. Is Phil getting what he deserves, or is this too harsh? Subscribe if you want the next chapter. At 56 years old, Phil Mickelson is still Phil Mickelson. He still has that left-handed swing. He still has those 6 major trophies. But the sport that once celebrated him does not know what to do with him anymore.